Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I made this chocolate pistachio strawberry mousse cake. Don't get intimidated by the name of this cake. It might seem long, but this cake will be the best cake that you will ever have in your entire life, and I don't mean that lightly. It is full of amazing textures and flavors, and everything goes together so well, and the cake isn't even overly sweet even with all of those components. The cake starts with a layer of pistachio crunch made with graham crackers and pistachios, and then it's followed by a layer of chocolate sponge cake that is soaked in a homemade strawberry simple syrup. Then comes a layer of pistachio cream cheese mousse, which is filled with a strawberry compote in the center and then covered again with some more of that mousse. Then finally comes a layer of dark chocolate ganache, and then the layers are repeated one more time, and then finally the entire cake is covered in a light and airy strawberry whipped cream frosting. Let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is make the chocolate sponge cake. In a large bowl, combine 4 egg whites that are at room temperature along with a little bit of lemon juice, and then you're going to beat this on medium-high speed using electric mixer while gradually adding a 1/3 cup of sugar until you reach stiff peaks. The duration that will take to reach stiff peaks depends on the strength of your electric mixer, so you can use an electric hand or stand mixer. Once you reach stiff peaks, set that aside, and then into the 4 egg yolks combine the remaining 1/3 cup of sugar and beat that until you have a pale and creamy mixture that looks like this. Into this, we're going to add some water, vanilla extract, and some vegetable oil, and then give this a good mix. Next, we're going to sift in the dry ingredients, which is just all the ingredients that are written here on your screen. I mixed that up into a bowl, and then I'm sifting it into the egg yolk mixture. It's really important to sift your dry ingredients to ensure a fluffy sponge cake. The detailed written recipe will be available on my website, thefoodflamingo.com, and you can find a link to that in the description box below. There you'll find tips and tricks, step-by-step instructions, as well as a printable recipe. So if you're going to make this cake, I highly recommend that you check that out so you don't miss a single step. Use the electric mixer to give this a good mix until all the dry ingredients are fully incorporated, and then I just used a spatula to clean the sides of the bowl. Now we're going to set this aside and bring back the meringue and add 1/3 of that whipped meringue into this chocolate egg yolk mixture. Use a spatula to fold everything together until it is fully incorporated. This is the first fold, so it's alright to be a little bit rough with this one, but just make sure that you be very careful not to overmix. Now we're going to pour all of this chocolate egg yolk mixture back into the egg whites, the whipped egg whites, and then carefully and very gently use a spatula to fold everything together. Don't overmix and don't do this too hard because we don't want to get all of that air out that we just beat into the egg whites. This here is the chocolate sponge cake mixture. This is actually my regular sponge cake recipe, and then I just modified it a bit to make a chocolate sponge cake recipe. I'm going to pour all of this into a lined 9x13 baking dish and then spread that out evenly. Give it a few taps on the counter. You don't want to tap it too hard or else you're going to remove all of the air, and then bake for about 20 minutes in an oven preheated to 160 degrees Celsius. Once baked, let the cake cool down completely in the pan, and then I just used a 6-inch cake ring to make these indentations and then used a sharp knife to cut out 2 layers and then set those cake layers aside. Next, we're going to make the pistachio crunch. Use a food processor or a Ziploc bag and a rolling pin to finely crush your graham crackers, and then you're going to add that into a bowl. Make sure to remove any large chunks because that is going to ruin the stability of the bottom layer. And into this, I'm going to add finely chopped pistachios, which I also use the food processor to chop, along with some melted, cooled, unsalted butter. Give this a good mix until you have a mixture that looks something like this. It should resemble wet sand, and when you press this mixture together onto the palm of your hands, it should hold its shape. I'm adding all of this onto the bottom of a 6-inch cake ring that is lined on the sides with parchment paper and placed on a serving plate. If you don't have a cake ring, you could also use a spring-form pan. Now I'm using a flat bottom glass to just press all of that down to make a compact layer, and then we're going to pop this in the refrigerator while we make the rest of the components. Next, let's work on the strawberry compote. In a small saucepan, combine some fresh strawberries that I chopped into small cubes, some granulated sugar, a little bit of lemon juice, and some vanilla extract. Give this a good mix, and now we're going to place this on medium-high flame and cook until the strawberries are nice and mushy like this. Then make the flame low and add in the cornstarch slurry. Give this a good mix, cook for 1 to 2 minutes until it's nice and thick, and then set that aside. Now let's work on the pistachio cream cheese mousse. Add some room temperature cream cheese into a large bowl and give that a good mix with a spatula just to soften it up. And then goes in some pistachio spread. This is store-bought pistachio spread, but you can always use a homemade version as well. And I'm also adding in some melted and cooled white chocolate, which is just going to help give structure to the mousse, because when white chocolate cools, it hardens, so the mousse is not going to be all sloppy and ruin the cake. Next, what we're going to do is set this aside, and in a separate medium-sized bowl, we're going to beat some cold heavy whipping cream along with some powdered sugar until stiff peaks form. I'm using an electric hand mixer, but you can also use a stand mixer for this step. Now we're going to bring both of these mixtures together, add 1/3 of the whipped cream into the pistachio cream cheese mixture, and use a spatula to fold that until it's fully incorporated. Now add all of the remaining whipped cream into the pistachio cream cheese mixture and gently fold using a spatula until everything is fully incorporated. Next, we're going to add gelatin to this, which is going to stabilize the mousse so the cake doesn't fall apart. Now this is plume gelatin that I had did before starting the mousse. I forgot to film it, but all you have to do is sprinkle some gelatin powder on cold water. And now I microwaved it to melt it, and then I let that cool down completely before adding about 3 tablespoons of the mousse into this, and then giving that a good mix until it's fully combined. Now I'm going to add this gelatin mixture back into the mousse and then use a spatula to fold everything together until it's fully incorporated. I will have the quantity of gelatin in grams, so if you're using gelatin sheets, just use the same amount in grams. Now once the mousse is ready, what we're going to do is add that to a piping bag and let that sit in the fridge until we assemble the cake. For the dark chocolate ganache, I melted all of my ingredients using a double boiler, added that to a piping bag, and let that cool until it was pipable consistency for about 20 minutes in the refrigerator. Next, let's assemble the cake. Add 1 layer of the chocolate sponge cake onto the pistachio crunch base, and then apply a generous amount of the strawberry simple syrup, and the recipe for this is available on the blog, so make sure to click the link in the description box below for the detailed recipe of this entire cake. Now pipe a border of the pistachio cream cheese mousse onto the sides like this, and then we're going to add half of the strawberry compote into the center. As you can see, my strawberry compote is very thick, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Next, cover the entire top with more pistachio cream cheese mousse, and then use a spoon to just smooth it out to have nice and even layers. Finally, I'm going to add a layer of the dark chocolate ganache. I'm just putting it rough like this and then using the back of a spoon again to smooth that out. What we're going to do next is repeat all of these layers one more time. So we're going to start with the second layer of chocolate sponge cake, soak that in some strawberry simple syrup, and then repeat the process with the pistachio mousse. This was a cake that I made for Eid this year, and usually I always make a cake for Eid and I always focus on the decoration and always use simple flavors, but this year I decided to focus on the flavors, which I'm much more confident in than when it comes to cake decorating, and I really love these flavors. It's perfect for the springtime. It has vibrant flavors and delicious textures. You have to give this one a try. After adding on the last layer of dark chocolate ganache, we're going to pop this in the refrigerator for at least 5 hours or preferably overnight. It's the next day, so what we're going to do is run a butter knife onto the sides of the cake ring just to release it, because I actually had used some butter to help the paper stick. And then I'm opening the ring and then carefully peeling off the parchment paper, and look at those layers. They look amazing. They're nice and neat, and this is why I love using the cake ring, because it helps you achieve those neat layers. Now all we have to do to finish off this cake is add on the strawberry whipped cream frosting. Here are the ingredients. All you do is whip all of these ingredients together until you reach stiff peaks. Add that into a piping bag. You don't have to add it to a piping bag. It just makes it much easier to frost the cake when it's in a piping bag like this. This strawberry whipped cream frosting is actually one of my most popular recipes on my blog, and I decided to make it even better by adding in some pureed fresh strawberries. If you love baking and you're trying to up your cake game, then I highly recommend that you try out this cake. It's not very hard, but it has many components that come together to make a masterpiece. It's perfect for parties and get-togethers, and trust me, one bite and your guests will be in shock at how good this cake is, and no one is going to believe that you made it at home. But if you're a beginner and you're looking for some easier baking recipes, then check out my website, thefoodflamingo.com, and you can find there lots and lots of recipes that you can try out, and I highly recommend trying out cookies if you're new to baking. After piping on the frosting, I just used an offset spatula to smooth out the frosting, and then I used a cake scraper to smooth it out even more. Now it's time for the best part, decorating the cake. You can decorate the cake however you'd like, but I wanted to keep it simple while still bringing the flavors of the cake to the decorating. So what I did was took some of the whipped cream frosting and I added pistachio spread to it to make it this green color, and then I used a large star tip to pipe the dollops on the cake. Then I used the strawberry whipped cream frosting with two different piping tips, which were a smaller round tip and a smaller star tip, to create more dollops on top. And then finally I used a very small star tip and made more of the green dollops. Next, I added freshly chopped strawberries and then finished that off with some finely chopped pistachios, some mint leaves, and a little bit of gold pearl sprinkles. And here it is, the final cake. This cake will blow your mind, so make sure to give it a try. Now let's dig into it and look at all of those layers. A quick tip is to wipe your knife in between each slicing so that you can have neat layers. And here they are. Look at those layers. Each of these layers are so neat, and when put together, these flavors work so well together. The tanginess from the strawberries, along with that chocolatey dark chocolate ganache and that sponge that is soaked in that strawberry simple syrup, and we can't forget that pistachio crunch, which just brings everything together. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe for more easy and delicious recipes just like this one. Like the video if you've liked it and comment down below if you tried this recipe or if there's anything else you'd like me to make. And as always, thank you so much for watching.